I know that you've all been prepared for this, but I thought I'd just remind you just the same.
Can you handle that, Blondie?
Game over, man. Game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
It was pure evil.
I want to buy some radio ad time.
Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, Noel John Toohey.
We got Carmack in the back. This is Invasion of the Polly Snatchers. Let's get to it, motherfuckers. Alright, Noel, we're back. We decided that we're going to keep taking a little break from movies. Last week, or last time I should say, because it was 2 weeks ago, he threw me a massive curveball. He said mental health and horror.
Yes.
And I was like, dude, my fucking back is sore from carrying around that curveball all the time. So I was like, I'm going to throw you a softball in return. And so Noel, like, as I said, we're remaining topical, and this time we're going to look at remakes in horror. Like, pretty much are they necessary? Like remakes and reboots, because they're slightly different, if you know what I mean. Like,
yeah.
Because remake is generally a more beat to beat remake of a film, whereas reboot is like taking the same story but making it in a new way or some shit. Like whatever way they want to say it, it's just all like
Evil Dead, Halloween.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. One was good and the other one was Rob Zombie movie. Like, so pretty much we're going to look at remakes. We're going to talk about, are they necessary? Is it good for the genre? Is it good that we're getting modernized interpretations of the stories we know and love so well for a brand new generation in a new time, and like have new creators revisit old topics or old movies from the past and reinvigorating maybe a new franchise or rebirthing a franchise or whatever. And like, I think like now is a good time to speak about it, because even though we haven't had a Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street remake for quite some time, like around a decade, maybe more than a decade, it's like 12, 13 years. But right at the moment, we're going through the reboot with Halloween franchise, which we covered last month, Shocktoberfest, on Spotify. Check us out, because we don't plug ourselves enough. And at the moment we have Halloween, and on the TV, on the TV sounds weird, but we have the Chucky TV series, and we have Know What You Did Last Summer, and we have just a couple of years ago we had the Chucky remake, or the reboot actually, because that's a perfect example of a reboot.
It's both, isn't it? We've had a remake and a reboot.
Yeah, so
in a
like,
short period of
I
time.
haven't seen the TV series of I Know What You Did Last Summer yet, or Chucky, because I'm going to let the runs complete, and maybe we do an episode on the two of them, because they probably pair well together, you know, being remakes. But what do you think, like, when you look at especially horror, because there's very few genres maybe outside of science fiction that has the remake ability of a horror movie? And do you think it's necessary at times when you look at like the movies that are being remade? But I think it might mean Joe Dante, I'm not too sure, the guy who directed Gremlins, and he was like, you think you should remake a movie because the new generation just like watching it in black and white? It's like, well, fuck him. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So what do you think? Do you think remakes are important? Do you think it's a good idea to modernize stuff, or do you think it's a case of remake, reboot? Because it's infecting the gaming industry now, because we're seeing more remakes and reboots.
Of course. Remasters.
Remasters, which is just a fancy way of saying like, you know, we're doing shit again.
We're selling you Halo 2 again.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so what do you think? Like, do you think it's important to have these modernized interpretations of old stories, or do you think it should be a case of, if you're a real, for lack of a better term, student of film, that you should go back into these old eras and really seek these stories that you might not have known of because they existed long before you ever did?
Yeah, well, see, the thing is, I suppose it's one of those how long is a piece of string thing. It's hard to give it a direct answer. If you were to say to me, if I lived in a world, could remakes or no remakes, and it was just that binary, I would say no, because I always think it's nice to just keep coming out with fresh ideas. Yeah. But it's like a case by case. I think ultimately it's symptomatic of people kind of running out of ideas. Yeah. And that's just bad. Yeah. I think it's also easy cash grabs, because you have kids who have been told by their parents how cool Chucky is, and then you have us who we're so enamoured with it that we're just going to go back and visit it. Yeah,
you'll get the horror version of what Marvel's so bankable, like, is because you have the father bringing the son.
Exactly,
you know, that
so ultimately, I find it more frustrating than I do. And I'm
enjoying. I'm watching. Bringing daughter, don't come after me, feminists.
I'm watching Chucky, and I'm really enjoying it, I have to say. And I watched Evil Dead. I thought that was great. I watched Nightmare on Elm Street. I thought that was shit. I watched Rob Zombie's Halloween. I thought that was shit.
Yeah, I think he's a shit human being. I'll raise you one.
But it just did nothing for me.
Great singer though.
Yeah,
great singer.
Yeah,
like should have stuck to singing.
Yeah,
because he's really fucking good at it.
Yeah.
See, don't say words, we don't get sued.
Dragula, yeah. We don't get but,
Dragula-like. It's Dragula-like.
Dragula adjacent.
Yeah.
But no, like I do find ultimately, I find myself sighing more than I find myself getting excited. But that's not to say that I never get excited, and that's where the binary thing doesn't work.
Do you think? What do you mean the binary thing? Hot button topic. But do you think it's a case of like my whole rule of thumb is if you're going to remake a movie, it should be a bad movie with a good premise. Like,
That's a good,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Because there's no need to, like, even though, like, we were very lucky because we're called Body Snatchers because Body Snatchers had such a lasting impression on us because it's such a good movie, and we wouldn't have seen that movie if the Body Snatchers from the 1950s hadn't been remade. You look at The Thing.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Exactly.
And again, there's always going to be that argument that if something comes into a new age, you know, like Tolkien never got to see his work fully realised because he just wasn't.
You got to see that Russian version, did he?
Yeah, he got to see that Russian version. And this is where remakes. This is where you can actually finally touch the scope of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's true. So but
like Lord of the Rings was unfilmable. Really,
it was, of course, it was. Battle of the Helm's Deep, that was never been made.
Yeah, exactly.
That was huge.
Yeah.
Like,
and he trimmed the fuck out of those books. As far as I can tell, I never read them. As far as I know, he trimmed the fuck out of them.
Well, there you go. You know, so I do think that there is a place for it. I just don't wish that it was where Hollywood hung its hat.
Yeah.
And Hollywood has completely hung its hat on it, especially in the horror genre.
Yeah.
Because now we're again like what some of the biggest films have been. Halloween's in the last couple of years.
Halloween and Halloween Kills.
Halloween Kills.
And next year we get Halloween Ends.
Halloween Ends, of course. And they take
I assume
and they
Evil
take
will
from
die.
Halloween 2.
I assume Evil will die that night.
Yeah.
He didn't die in part 2.
Yeah, no. But that's the thing, isn't it? It decided like, okay, 1 and 2 happened. And now we're not bringing back Danielle. We're Daniel Harris. We're going to go 1, 2, and now Halloween 2018. And
the only cool thing Rob Zombie ever did in my mind was having Danielle Harris come back, the girl that played Jamie from Halloween 4 and 5.
And
she came back and played Annie in his remakes, and that's like, in my opinion, I was like, I probably would have got her to play Laurie.
Yeah, why not?
Because she's a far superior actor to that scout, whatever the fuck her name was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
the one that replaced her, absolutely, yeah. She even said, I seen her in an interview, like that girl got a lot of hate, and she was like, I don't know why, she's lovely. Yeah. She signed up, she got a job, and she did.
I think with the kudos Daniel Harris had from being Jamie in the original Halloween's timeline, that I think Rob Zombie's Halloween would have been treated a lot better because of Danielle Harris's presence in the lead role. Yeah. I think she would have been a better Laurie Strode.
Yeah, absolutely. Just lean into it. Just lean into it. Yeah. But I don't know, like I find it very frustrating, especially when and this is what's great about A Quiet Place or about Hereditary or some of the horror films I've enjoyed. I was like, thank you. I have never seen that film before.
Yeah, or Midsommar or Summer. Is it Sommer or is it Midsommar?
It's Sommer.
Because I was thinking the Scandinavian.
Well, I think it's named with a Scandinavian word.
Yeah, so to me it looks like Midsommar.
Yeah,
but I think
that's phonetic.
Midsommar.
Yeah. And I hadn't seen that film before. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's been The Wicker Man, or there's been things.
Yeah, but that was remade.
Yeah, and there's adjacents to it, but at the same time, I was kind of going, wow, I haven't seen that to death. Yeah. And Halloween, I enjoyed the last Halloween film. I enjoyed it. I mean,
Halloween Kills.
Yeah, for what it was.
Where Michael Myers played Jason Voorhees for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's the rule I always say is like you have to understand the franchise you're operating in.
Yes.
And that's not Michael Myers.
No.
Yeah, it's like
especially when they put spoiler alert 1, 2, 3. They put to bed the idea that is Michael Myers a human being who's A, exceptionally strong and B, lucky. Yeah. You know, he didn't get hit on any of his vital points, and he didn't. He's very, very strong. And he's very determined.
He's a predator, so it's like anytime a lioness hunts something, that she could have been on 20 hunts and never been hurt once.
Yeah.
Is that lioness lucky? Maybe a little bit, but also a very talented hunter.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's
why they put that to bed when he took 5, 6, 7 rounds point blank, as well as been beaten with bats and stabbed.
Because the first one was so realism.
And he gets up and beats out, and then that's superhuman. Yeah. They crossed the line, and now, like you said, Jason Voorhees. At least Jason Voorhees always knew what he was.
Yeah.
And Jason Voorhees was superhuman.
Yeah, because Sean Cunningham even says the reason Friday the 13th exists is a rip off of Halloween, because it was on the back of the success of Halloween. You even look at some of them, like some of the kills and some of the jump scares are identical to Halloween. And I just think he was just like, we have this thing that's like very Halloween-esque, but they brought it in a whole new direction. As you said, Jason Voorhees became this unstoppable killing machine, and then as the franchise grew, he remained that, and so they stayed true to the franchise because they understood what franchise they're operating within. They're like, we don't want to be Michael Myers. We kind of had in part one, we kind of had this Michael Myers psycho type thing where we had Pamela Voorhees being the killer, and they were like, let's pick a female killer because that wasn't the thing to do at the time, you know, that kind of thing. And it was in the realm of realism, very like Halloween. But as the franchise progressed, they're like, okay, I think it was by the time Jason Lives when they resurrected from the dead, and it was like, okay, now he's a supernatural unstoppable killing machine. And even though he kind of always had that weird essence about him because this was supposed to be a kid that died long ago, and somehow between part two, the end of part one and part two,
very end.
He ages about 20 years, like, you know what I mean, like, so
Yeah, he did, didn't he? He showed up with a burlap sack on his head. Yeah, of course.
I just think though, like, as those movies progressed, they understood, like, by, as I said, by about Jason Lives when they brought Voorhees back, instead of the guy Dick something was the ambulance driver, was the guy wearing Jason Voorhees mask and in Halloween,
20.
in in Halloween or Friday the 13th 4. I think
right.
5. Sorry, yeah, it was 5.
I was talking about the Michael Myers got his head chopped off. Sorry.
No, that was H20. Yeah, and that ended up being because there's a Friday the 13th where Jason Voorhees isn't actually in it. It's part 5,
right?
And it's a guy pretending to be Jason Voorhees because he's getting revenge for this guy's murder or whatever. And like, I just think like after that they were like, how are we going to bring Jason back? He's going to have to be supernatural, and they just kind of stuck with that for the rest of it. And that's Jason Voorhees, and everybody goes, okay, Jason Voorhees is this like unstoppable killing machine. But like for a long time, Michael Myers was rooted in realism, and then he became kind of more supernatural as the franchise went along. But then they brought him back to being more rooted in realism with Halloween H20 and then Halloween Resurrection, was an appalling film. And then you have the new ones where like, I think it threw a lot of people off is like part 1, you have the return Halloween H40 where Michael Myers, they go through all these things, like he's like a Ted Bundy. He's just this predatorial apex killer, and he is killable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then in Halloween Kills, they're like, oh no, now he's Jason Voorhees.
Yes.
Like, don't get me wrong, as I mentioned on our episode, I love the scene where he kills 12 fireflies for lack of firemen for lack of a better term. I loved it. You know what I mean? Like, but I thought it was cool action, but it's just not Halloween. You know what I mean? And I just think when you have a reboot, and first of all you're like, well, let's stay true to the tone of the original, and that's what they kind of did with Halloween H40. But then when you have Halloween Kills being so different, I just think when you're making or doing a remake or whatever, a reboot, that I think is you have to pick a tone and stick to it. And I just think a lot of these remakes and reboots, they're kind of flimsy or like.
It feels like a get out of jail free card.
Yeah, exactly.
That didn't work.
Yeah, let's make him
work.
unkillable.
Yeah.
Now he's unkillable.
So let's like discontinue the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th.
Yeah,
let's go from 2.
I hate that
take
shit.
it in. But like Superman Returns did it in 2006. It was supposed to be like taken from Superman 2.
Yeah,
He goes off
and that's what Brandon Routh got the part because he looks so like.
Yeah, exactly. And then that didn't work, and they said, no, never mind. We'll do Man of Steel a couple of years later.
Yeah.
Like, you know. So now it's. I don't know. There's no accountability.
Candyman's did it as well.
Candyman is doing it. That wasn't a great film.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
It's
great if you like racism.
Yeah, but it just wasn't, and you just think, fucking hell, man. And like, this is supposed to be hard. It's why I'm not a comedian. It's why I'm not a famous writer.
Yeah.
As in, like, the people who do it are better than everyone else,
Yeah.
and that's why the accolades are so huge, and that's why it's such a difficult thing to do. But is it? Because you have a lot of people just kind of go, well, what if we, I don't know, brought back Jamie Lee Curtis? She's older now. Yeah, I like it. Let's just do that. And you can. It's not an idea, man. It's not an idea.
But the thing is, like, it's so easy, and I've said it before. Like, you give me any franchise, and I've said it. You give me a franchise, you give me a year, I'll create a coherent through line, no matter how divergent.
If you had a year,
give me, and I that's why I would have been with Halloween. Like, actually, Halloween's so much easier. Because you can explain Jamie's existence, and Danielle Harris is still alive. She's a young woman. Bring her back. Josh Hartnett. You don't need to have a Karen. You don't need to have a new. Like, you don't need to rewrite it and reboot. You do, these people. Josh Hartnett's still alive. He's still a good. He's still a decent actor. I was going to say good actor. Bit kind.
Actually, like Josh Hartnett.
Yeah, you would. But I think like Josh Hartnett's still there. Danielle Harris is still there. Jamie Lee Curtis is still a fucking icon legend, and she's still at the peak of her power. She's always going to be, and she's in the grave. But like, it's the case of like when you have the moving parts that are still there, and you have a franchise that already exists, and Paul Rudd is still there. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could easily look at that franchise and go, Alright, I can explain why she abandoned Jamie, why Jamie's not mentioned in H20 and John's there instead. Because many people run away from their past, and you could literally have her reconcile with Jamie in the meantime, and you could have Josh Hartnett and Daniel Harris taking the franchise forward, two very capable actors. Instead we have Judy Greer, who's shoehorned in, and the other young woman that plays her daughter. And there's unnecessary characters, and I just think it's such a lazy thing to do, as you said. It's like, by the way, do you know what I love about Halloween? You're like, yeah, it's like, I love the franchise. Really? Most of it, anyway. Most of it, well,
but it's a tumble dryer. It's a tumble dryer of a franchise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You had the third one that wasn't a Halloween, and then you end up revamping it and getting rid of everything from 2 onwards. And with this kind of, you have a standalone about like Michael Myers, the background of Michael Myers, and that's kind of discontinued as well. So that's taken out with the rest of it. And now you just sit down and go, well, what is Halloween?
Yeah.
You know, and this is the fucking thing about fucking remake. I hate it. I hate that they get a blank slate.
Yeah.
They should fail or they should fucking soar.
Like, if you're rebooting the franchise, like when I reboot my computer, I don't delete all the information off and turn it back on again.
No.
I'm just reloading the system with an upgrade.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So why can't they do that?
So somebody comes to me and you're an excellent horror writer and says, we're going to finance a film, and what do you think about this? And you kind of go, no, that just sounds to me like it's been done. What about this for an idea? Just something new. A Quiet Place, I respect the hell out of it. They did it. They did something that hadn't been done.
Yeah, something that we,
and then of course,
we didn't know about. So
Bird Box and all this kind of like sensory deprivation.
Hush, Don't Breathe.
Hush, of course, Hush. Another one. The noise aspect kind of inverted.
It's like something we spoke of before. Oftentimes success is measured by the imitations that follow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like I watched Hypnotic.
Is that good? I haven't
it's
seen it.
bollocks.
Yeah.
It's a gigantic pile.
You know my rule.
Absolute shite.
Because the movie's bad should never be a reason for you to not watch it.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? Like,
but at the same time, I hadn't seen the film before. So I was like, no, you know what? That didn't do it for me at all.
Yeah,
but I hadn't seen it before, and I'll give it that if I give it nothing else.
Exactly, because like even if something it doesn't like really hit the mark, you gotta praise the originality.
Exactly.
Sometimes like the execution's always the hardest thing, like you know what I mean. But sometimes you have to praise the idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
Like Doctor Sleep was a sequel.
Yeah.
You know, if it wasn't as good as The Shining, but so what?
Yeah.
It was a really good film.
Yeah,
it just wasn't as good as The Shining, but The Shining was such a great film that's okay. There can be a gap before it falls into being bad. Yes. But it was a fucking sequel.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you just have to look at the film on its own merits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like the Thing prequel is something that I am a big advocate of. I think it's a fucking fantastic movie with turbo special effects. Whereas people have it arseways. They think it's an awful movie because it has turbo special effects. No, that's wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it's hard to separate that.
Yeah.
The wheat from the chaff. Like, I mean, I watched that and I was kind of going, well, I don't like that. Because I remember, one of the first transformations you've seen, it was, it's very clearly CGI, that the face kind of becomes warped and one half it drops.
Yeah.
And I remember just kind of going, oh, fuck this. So I did. I ended up watching it again not so long ago. And I remember, this is real cool. And I took into account how well it's set up. The thing that we know and love from 1981.
It maintains that continuity. Like,
but even where they found all like the holes in the wall and the burnt out the
guy at his desk with the fucking the yolk dripping out his finger.
Yeah,
in his throat.
all the people dying in these exact ways, or the axe that was in the wall, and somebody goes, "No, leave it." And that axe that's found there, genius, absolutely beautiful. And I think people need to be fully aware of what they're watching. It's a prequel, but it's like it's not a prequel in the classic sense. It's not about the person when they were a child. It's exactly what happened just before the thing. That was cool, and that was a prequel. That was a continuation in a sense. I know it's a prequel, but a continuation of the story.
I think the way they're remastering games right now, I would not mind them going into movies that are fairly strong and have bad special effects and remaster the special effects and re-release the materials.
That's the thing. Yeah,
like you get literally.
That's the thing. Yeah. But you don't think like it's a results game.
Yeah.
So like we went to watch Evil Dead and I really enjoyed it. Jane Levy was excellent.
I saw that movie like 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
Really?
When it came out, I was like, is this allowed?
But I remember thinking like you can't. Okay, it's not if you don't have Bruce Campbell and if you don't have Sam Raimi. And just that fun of the 80s that I just kind of reeked of. But they said, right, no, we don't have that. We admittedly don't have that. Yeah. We're making a different film.
Yeah.
We're imagining that film through a completely different lens. Yeah. It's going to be dark and evil, and the opening is brilliant. There's that girl, he has his daughter tied up in the basement. You think he comes across like a monster, but then she gives the whole "your mother sucks cocks in hell" or whatever her variant.
Or I'll rape your soul in hell or something.
Yeah, and he burns her and stuff like that. And you're like, wow, this is dark.
Yeah.
Like, this is like the book without any of the fun, and that sounds like it shouldn't work. But they said no, it doesn't have the fun, we admit, but
because you can't replace a Bruce Campbell.
You can't, but then don't try.
Exactly, and that's what a remake should be.
That's what a remake should be,
because it's completely a reboot. Because a remake is kind of like it's more similar to the tone, isn't it? Like,
and in that sense, it's a results game. As in, yes, these films should be remade, and then I go into another film like Nightmare on Elm Street and go, no, films should be remade. It's hard to have an absolute. But if I was given a choice, I find it more a frustrating concept than an enlightening one.
Yeah, I think a good remake would be like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, with Jessica Biel. Jessica Biel, the Seventh Heaven girl. She's in Seventh Heaven, wasn't she?
Yeah.
But I think like when you look at that. I think when you look at the sequels, especially for the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they're very cartoonish, and they lost some of that fear factor, that rawness that Toby Hooper got with the first movie. And I think that was, even though a lot of people say there are a lot of Abercrombie models in that fucking movie, it's like, but my response is like, because they're good looking people doesn't mean bad shit can't happen to them. Like, you know what I mean though? Like, it's like, that's what really annoys me, but people are like, oh, they're all too good looking. It's like, yeah, good looking people exist, bad shit happens to them all the time.
Yeah.
Because they're good looking shouldn't take away from the story. Like, that dude got on a meat hook. That's ferocious. Leatherface in that movie is terrifying. And Lee Ernie, and he's fucking terrifying too, and that's a new layer to add to it. Do you know what I mean? I just think when you look at the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, of course it was a landmark in terms of what you can get away with on screen, especially in like the mid to late 70s, or maybe even early 70s. I think it was 73 or something. But like when you look at what they did with that movie, and you go, of course that's a landmark. But if you're going to remake it, and I thought the style that they remade it in, I thought Leatherface was far more terrifying in the remake than he was in the original, because in the original, to me, he seemed like a bit of a bumbling buffoon. Like he's like he had
a monster, but a bumbling one.
Yeah, well, to me, he seemed like a guy that had no mental capability.
Yeah, at the end where he's swinging the chainsaw, all frustrated.
Yeah, exactly. But in the remake, it seemed like this was a dude that you unleash.
Well, maybe that should be a rule of thumb. A remake should be a reimagining.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Like,
as opposed to just
that's the Tim Burton word. I didn't remake Planet of the Apes. I reimagined it. It's a reimagining. I'm like, do you know what the first Planet of the Apes had, dude? It had a conclusion that made fucking sense, and yours did not. So I guess you reimagined a good movie into one that's nonsensical. You know what I mean?
But I do. All you want, I suppose, from Hollywood, if you're going to break it down, is originality. Yeah. And sometimes originality can go hand in hand with using premises, or even just straight up using old context, old films. But the amount of times it falls flat, and the worst, even worse than a bad one, is a pointless one. Yeah. And they often go hand in hand. But a
Psycho.
Psycho was pointless.
With Vince Vaughn, and the only thing that changes is the fact that he jerks off in it. Like, that's literally nearly a scene for scene remake, except the fact that he like, oh, do you know what I really thought Hitchcock left out? The masturbation scene. You know what I mean? I just think if you're going to make a remake or reboot, I don't even know, because like a reboot is nearly where you're rebooting a franchise that already exists, but you're keeping original continuity intact. Yeah. Whereas a remake is like you're really remaking it, whereas you get the original same storyline but a new sort of like a new tone or something. Yeah, kind of like Evil Dead, where it's pretty much a very similar storyline. A group of friends go to a cabin, they come across an Necromonicon, and bad shit goes down.
Oh yeah. If you were given the bullet points, it would sound similar.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what it would,
but the tone's completely different.
You swap a female for a male.
Oh, easy, like
and you've almost got the.
And the thing is, like, you could easily say those exact same two things. I could say those two synopses side by side, and you're like, which one's the one Bruce Campbell?
Exactly. You know, keep it that simple. Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
But like the Vince Vaughn, like you said, if all he's added to it is he's jerking. Well, what's the next? Yeah. And you said something. I think you said it before we start recording. What did you say about the director of Gremlins? If they don't like it, fuck him.
No, I said that when we were recording.
When we were recording, I think it's a
Joe
great
Dante,
fucking Joe Dante. If they don't like it, fuck him.
I just think there's some films that they're captured or they encapsulate a time that they came from, and they don't transfer well to a new medium, or not even a new medium, a new era. Sometimes some films, like if you want to, like I know Scarface is a remake, but when you look at Scarface, and I know Antoine Fuqua is talking about remaking it again at the moment, but like Scarface is so 1980s. Like so, like 1970s, late 70s, 80s, that immigrant experience, all the people coming over from Cuba, the heightened criminality in the Florida region at the time due to the cocaine wars, all this kind of stuff. It just encapsulated that era. And I just think it's going to be very hard to have something like a Scarface, because the first one I know, I think, was set around like an Al Capone type character or something. But like, I just think because Al Capone was known as Scarface, that was his nickname.
Yeah.
But I just think that like some films just belong so much to an era that I don't think they need to be remade. I don't think we need another Scarface movie.
Oh, that's it, and especially
You know what I mean?
something like Lord of the Rings needed to be made at a time where it was possible. But something like Scarface, like it wasn't a 1080p fucking digital camera. Fuck off.
Yeah,
fuck off.
Because that look that it has
It's perfect.
It's perfect for the movie itself.
It's perfect. It's exactly what films of the same. And a lot of times people go like they jump through hoops to try and recreate that, and they spend hundreds of thousands on fancy cameras to look like they're not fancy cameras and stuff like that. But no, that was just made of its time, and it's a part like that would be that. Like again, I wish I wish I was allowed to say no, leave it the fuck alone.
Yeah,
leave it the fuck alone.
Yeah, like,
Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. They keep taking it out and trying to make a dance cover of something. One of the best songs ever made. Leave it the fuck alone.
That was a trash movie.
Was it? I never even watched it.
It's like what did Boise? He was like someone said to him it was like pretty much the Queen's greatest hits album, but with actors involved. That's kind of what it was. It's just like pretty much here's your favorite song from Queen, but Rami Malek is gonna wear book tee. You know what I mean? Like that's literally it. Like I just didn't like it at all. And he doesn't really sing in it either, which.
Does he not?
No.
I've heard Freddie Mercury sing. You either have that or you don't, exactly. And you don't.
Exactly. But I just think like if you look at like not to get too sidetracked, but if you look at like a proper biopic, I'm not sure how you're supposed to pronounce that, but like Jamie Lee Fox, or not Jamie, and Jamie, fucking what's his name? Jamie Foxx, isn't it? I combined him with Jamie Lee Curtis.
You
again.
did.
I did that.
Jamie Lee Fox Curtis.
I did that in an earlier episode too with Spider-Man, I think. But you know, Jamie Foxx, when he did Ray Charles, when he played Ray Charles in the movie Ray, he did all the singing himself. Like, you know what I mean?
But he can't. He's a great singer. He's known to be. But it's kind of a triple threat.
I just think it's like it's a case of like if you're supposed to be doing something like that, you should have the abilities that the person has. You can't. It's not just an impersonation contest. Could you look like him? Doesn't mean you can be Freddie Mercury.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and just like not to get too sidetracked, but like that's my kind of thoughts on So Vinny's thoughts on biopics.
Yeah.
It's just that but like, you know, get back to remakes. I just think like when you look at like an Evil Dead, that they changed the tone and kept a lot of the cool stuff from the original. Like
in fact, it was a new movie.
Yeah.
With some of the things that we know, Deadites and Necronomicon.
Yeah.
A Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah. All
that kind of jazz. It was all there, but it was a totally new film. It was just such an interesting experience. And if they were all and at the same time, I prefer the original Evil Dead.
Yeah.
But that's not an insult to it.
Yeah.
They were just both great films.
Yeah. I don't even think you can compare them.
Yeah, that's the other thing as well, isn't it? Because I almost feel like they're different genres.
Exactly. Yeah. Because both of them are horror, yes, but they're like then the remake of
Evil Dead. One was trying to fuck with your head. Yeah. It was dark. It was existential.
Well, I think the original Evil Dead is like satirical horror. You know what I mean? Like it's like very slapstick.
Of course, he chops his girlfriend's head off and she gets out of the grave and dances and stuff like that. Yeah, of course.
You know, and but like the other one is nearly more of akin to like the torture porn slasher of the late 2000 or the what was it be 2013 the aughties, is that what they call them?
Oh, the tens.
Is it the tens?
Is it just the tens?
Was the
noughties was the zeros. Yeah.
But pretty much that era was like, you know, on the back of Saw, Hostel, so like, and that's why when you had the
go hard or go home.
Yeah, exactly. When you had the remakes of Friday the 13th at the time from Marcus Nispel, and he did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they're very dark and they're very gruesome movies. And I think Evil Dead being on the back of that, and that's what I like. It's like when you look at a premise, I love that movie for what it is, and I love the slapstick nature of it. And even though Dead by Dawn, the sequel, is a bit darker than the first one in a lot of ways, but it's actually kind of funnier though at times. But when you look and you go to the premise, a group of kids, group of teenagers go to a deserted cabin and they could find this Book of the Dead, and you look at it and go, that could actually be a very dark story, because you take out your Bruce Campbell, you take out Sam Raimi and his style of storytelling, that could actually be a really dark story. And that's what I think when you look at remakes, then like some people get that wrong, and Rob Zombie is like, oh, do you know what would be really cool about Halloween? Do you know we have this like mystique around Michael Myers? Why don't we just explain everything about Michael Myers and humanize the character?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you do not understand what the movie's about.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? I just think that
it was called The Shape.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the whole thing was that there was nothing to him.
Yeah, you're not.
As Pinhead once describes himself in Hellraiser 4, I'm exquisitely empty.
That's a fucking great line.
It's a great line.
Yeah,
He
he's
goes,
got
"I'm
some
ex-
of the best lines.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
Is that
He
Doug
just
Bradley
showed
in
up.
Power 4 as well? Is it?
What?
Is Doug Bradley playing him in Power
Yeah, he
4?
plays the Power 4,
Yeah.
and he just says,
It is
"I
Doug
am,
Bradley, isn't it?
I am so exquisitely empty."
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, that's perfect.
Yeah.
because that's what I want from you.
Yeah.
That's the thing about the Rob Zombie. I didn't want layers to Michael Myers. I didn't want to see how he became what he became. No,
Yeah.
the thing is, like, he was just born empty.
Yeah.
Like, there was something so incredibly dark inside him
Yeah.
that his own therapist, Loomis, referred to him as, it's not a him.
Yeah.
You know, it's
like the shark in Jaws, right? I don't need to see that shark as a pup, and I don't need to see that maybe some human was mean to him. Sometime.
Yeah,
And that's when he
exactly,
starts eating
yeah.
humans, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
You know, it's just like sometimes something's like a force of nature. It's unexplainable, and that's what makes it scary.
Yeah,
because
that's the whole thing. The whole thing is supposed to scare you.
Yeah.
And narrative is great and storyline is great. But first and foremost, horror films should have this element of fear.
Yeah.
And when you soften the thing that you're supposed to be scared of, and it doesn't matter how much storytelling you do, that you've made it soft.
Yeah.
You've made when Michael Myers kills the boyfriend, holds up against the wall, sticks a knife through him, and then just stands back and tilts his head and looks at him. That's iconic.
It's terrifying.
It's terrifying.
Because that's a guy that's just killing you that way because he hadn't killed someone that way before
Yeah,
or something.
and he just had this like curiosity, like the
I wonder
same.
what it'd be like if I stuck him to the wall.
The same way, if somebody showed me like how to check,
That's what that's like.
yeah,
yeah.
if somebody showed me how to like check something on my car, like how to, I don't know, something with the engine, and I would kind of go, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But obviously I wouldn't have like a darkness to me when I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And Michael Myers didn't have a darkness to him when he did it, and that's what's so fucking dark.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's
because
like,
the subject matter is murder.
yeah, exactly.
Like,
It's like kind of like I think he doesn't kill a guy that's under his car, and he's probably just like, oh, I wonder what it'd be like if I just like crushed this fucking dude's head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's what a crushed head looks like.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. And he just like walks away.
And it wasn't like,
You know what I mean?
I hope the family suffers. No, he doesn't care about the family.
Yeah.
Like, you would never cross his mind.
Yeah.
Positively or negatively.
Yeah, that's the thing. You
Never.
cross his path.
No,
That's
it's
it.
about his. Yeah, actually, it's about his path.
Yeah, yeah, you
And when
cross
you
his
take
path.
that from him,
Yeah.
when you take that from him,
Yeah.
you've bastardized him.
Exactly. It's like I don't. As I said, I do not need to know why the shark is eating people off the coast.
It's
of
a
Amity.
fucking shark.
It's a shark. That's why it's eating people. That's a
Yeah.
good enough reason for me. It's like Michael Myers is like we talked about in the mental health episode. Like sometimes with serial killers, some people are wolves and they got a little bit of dog in them. Instead of the inverse, me and you be dogs that got a little bit of wolf. in
Yeah,
us. And,
wolves
like,
don't have a little bit of dog in them.
Exactly,
You know,
and that's
like,
what Michael Myers is. Like,
Yeah,
or
he's
Jason
just a
Voorhees.
wolf.
He's a wolf, like you know.
And,
what I mean?
and that was perfect. And they keep trying to, I don't know, like, what if we flesh? And that's what they quite often try to do. They try to, let's flesh it out.
Yeah.
Let's flesh it out. And sometimes the simplicity of a Michael Myers is what's so perfect about him. And the narrative comes from the complexity
Yeah.
of his victims, of the characters that are trying to survive,
Yeah.
or just live a normal life, or don't know what's going
That's
on.
what a lot of horrors forget. They concentrate too much on the killer and not the impact on the victims. And that's
Yeah.
what Halloween did so well. Like you see Jamie Lee Curtis crumble up, and the end of it was that the boogeyman, she's reverted to like a childlike state. You know what I mean? Because she's so terrified and so vulnerable in that moment.
Yeah.
You're seeing the impact on the victim. Whereas Friday the 13th, you're just like, oh, Jason Voorhees, I wonder what way he's going to fucking bash these kids' brains in.
Exactly.
Because we've got no character development, we've got no impact on them, and just eventually become totally disconnected. And Friday the 13th is a perfect example of a franchise where you look at it just for the kills. Whereas
Yeah.
the original, like Halloween, you look at it and you look at how it affects humans, and how when you interject someone that's so predatory like a Michael Myers into a normal person's life, the effect it can have on them. You know what I mean? And that's what Halloween did so well. It's like when you get to like something I always think about was like if I ever watch the news and I watch like a news reporter and she's after being like, just say a news reporter, female news reporters in Afghanistan or Iraq, and a suicide bomber walks up to her and fucking executes her or whatever,
Yeah.
blows himself up in front of her. And something that always crosses my mind is that suicide bomber could have been 35 years old and she might have been 28. He lived 35 years of his life and she lived 28 years of her life, completely on the opposite side of the world.
Yeah.
Until one time their lives just interjected, and that effect he had,
And a
on
butterfly
her,
effect that got them there.
like you know what I mean? What
You
exactly?
know,
What
an
brought-
open shoelace
Yeah.
and something as intentional as a plane, right?
Yeah,
You know, everything.
Exactly,
Yeah, it's
like,
terrifying.
You know what I mean? And that's what I like about when you look at like a Michael Myers, like Laurie Strode was just living her good life, babysitting like she's done a million times. And all of a sudden, it was like she was swimming off the coast of Amity, and then all of a sudden a shark swam by.
Yeah.
And he just happened to be wearing a fucking white mask, and he's just like, oh, I wonder what she tastes like.
Yeah, that's it.
And then he
yeah.
just like stayed after, and it's
But
like,
that's what's terrifying because I haven't I haven't fucked anybody over to the degree where I think they're going to literally go into a dark place, hoard weapons, make these entire plans,
Shows you how little you know me.
Yeah, it shows but at the same, just coming across the path, it was like coming across the path of a runaway train.
Yeah.
It hits you, you're gone. The train, the actual steel,
Yeah.
is indifferent to you.
Yeah, exactly.
The train driver is
Yeah.
not. The people on the train not, but the steel,
Yeah.
indifferent to you,
Yeah.
and that's what he was, a force of nature. And with these remakes and stuff, that's why again we'll go back to Evil Dead and tip the cap to it because it didn't try and soften its context
Fed
by
Alvarez,
fleshing it
I
out.
think, directly.
It took it a different way, but the Necronomicon was still an absolutely depth of evil.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
Yeah.
The Necronomicon never changed texture.
Yeah.
It was exactly what it was, and that's when it's done right.
And so like we're kind of coming up on the break. So, but before we go to the break, like in the second half, I kind of want to do a few broad strokes about talking about you know, the remakes and into the future and shit like that, and what's coming out and stuff. But so before we go to the break, we've already touched upon Nightmare on Elm Street in a different episode standalone, and our thoughts on that are like, you know, well documented or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about Halloween, and we talked about Evil Dead. And like, and I'm going to drop Evil Dead from this discussion because I don't consider it, like, back in the day, you wouldn't put an Ash or you wouldn't put a Deadeye beside of Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Leatherface. There are Mount Rushmore of horror villains in the modernistic terms. Like in the back of the day, you have Wolfman, Frankenstein, the Mummy, Count Dracula. You know what I mean? Like in the Universal era. So when you look at the remakes and the reboots that we've seen over the past, I want to go back. So Leatherface was in the 70s. So in the past, like, what, 40, 50 years, right? Which one do you think, because we know Evil Dead were highly positive on how we thought Evil Dead was constructed as a story, but what ones do you think were able to reimagine, to use Tim Burton's word, to reboot or remake its franchise from the OG 4, our Mount Rushmore of horror villains? Because I think it's indisputable, Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger and Leatherface are the OG for the modernistic horror. Like, and then, like, I'm talking about from its era, because you can go on and say the 90s, you can talk about Ghostface and he's kind of there on his own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what do you think of, I suppose you could say, Chucky, because he kind of goes a lot more, I know he was birthed in the 80s, but his franchise really took on during the 90s and then go on. But like, what do you think, and who do you think did the best job at reimagining or rebooting or remaking one of the OGs? Like Rob Zombie's Halloween 2007, the follow-up, which was like an acid trip. And then you have Marcus Nispel, who did Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, I think Texas Chainsaw might come up top on that.
Out of those four.
Yeah, out of those four.
Because we already talked about Nightmare on Elm Street, but
maybe second was Friday the 13th, because I found it inoffensive. I found it a bit like, okay, that was a film.
I like the way Friday the 13th was nearly a remake of part 1 and 2 together.
Yes.
That's what I liked about it.
Yeah, that's it. I watched it and it felt like a Friday the 13th. It didn't really give me anything more.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it for what it was.
It's definitely not a bad Friday the 13th movie.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Better than most of them.
The Nightmare on Elm Street, they went with a very serious Freddy who every now and again made out of place quips that just didn't work.
It's like, you're going to get the dude that played Rorschach and you're going to try to imitate that intensity.
Yeah.
That's a once in a lifetime fucking thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and especially like you're going to try and change up Freddy Krueger, a very talkative killer. You can change up, and Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees are very silent killers, because you can change up their mannerisms, make them more unkillable.
And it's funny, when you look at those four, how different Freddy is.
Yeah, exactly.
The absolute glee and fun and sarcasm and puns.
Yeah, he's the
Welcome
only
to
one that talks
primetime,
of all of
bitch.
them.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So either do it, if you like, again, I think they tried to do an Evil Dead on it and just try to take this like
same
darker,
era, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. So they tried to take this like dark turn on it, but they just came up short.
Yeah.
And I think Halloween, I actually enjoyed the last Halloween because I just loved, like, just, all right, if you're going to do it, just give me him on a straight line, butchering everything he comes across.
He should have been butchered. Like, I don't understand, like, just Jamie Lee Curtis in the hospital for most of the fucking movie. Like, just have him butcher people on his way to Laurie. And like, no, he's after the deputy dude. Gotcha! Gotcha! Oh, you're so smart, David Gordon Green. Go make a Friday the 13th movie, you fucking dimwit.
Bring Shane Black with you.
Yeah. Well, don't.
We can avoid both of them in one film. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know. I'd just rather Shane Black just stop being involved
just
in movies.
Just stop being involved in movies.
You know what I mean? Because, like, Iron Man 3 and The Predator. Like, he literally put a sex offender in the movie and then didn't tell his female lead.
Yeah, it's
not a cool move, dude.
Not a cool
move, dude.
Not a great move.
You fucking scumbag.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it was his friend. But, yeah, like, for me, when you look, one thing I loved about the Friday the 13th movie from 2009, and it's kind of strange that we don't have another Friday the 13th, but one thing I thought was surprising is they killed Jason Voorhees at the end. when she runs him through that kind of like rotation. I don't know what's it like. It looks like kind of like a wood chipper or something like you'd feed wood to, and it just makes like a mulcher. That's what it's called. It was and she kind of runs the back of his head through, and they kill him off. I don't understand why they did that. Because you're closing off the franchise for sequels. I don't understand that. But one thing I loved about Friday the 13th, the 2009 remake, was how realistic they made Jason Voorhees' abilities. They're like, they explained everything. How he can get around Camp Crystal Lake is because he's got tunnels all over the place. Yeah. And they gave him a bow and arrow, and they made him like a hunter. And there's like he was hunting wild game. And that's one thing about my favourite. And I thought he was terrifying. Like in 2009's Friday the 13th, because the only time we've seen Jason Voorhees in the last 20 odd years is Freddy vs. Jason 2007, I think it was, and Freddy vs. Jason.
I think it was actually 2003 or 4.
2003 was it? Yeah. So that's what 18 years ago.
Yeah.
So 18 years ago, and then we haven't seen the other ones over a decade. So we haven't seen Jason Voorhees on on film in over a decade. I just think it's weird because like they did such a good job of like opening up the franchise to kill him off. The end was a bit of a stupid choice, I think. But I love the way he was like more of a hunter. He had a bow and arrow. Loved that kill where the girl and the guy are on like a jet ski and they're going across it, and he fucking takes her one out. Yeah, like it goes straight to her eye or something. Or no, he takes the dude out first, I think. Yeah. And the one has to swim to safety or something. And she gets hit with the jet ski across the back of her head, and she gets away, I think. But I just love the way that like they're literally like, okay, this is his hunting ground. And what would he do? He would adapt his hunting ground to suit his needs. Yeah. Or maybe the reason he stays within that ground is because
Lord of all he pervades. Like,
you know, that kind of, I love the realistic approach they took with his abilities and how he got around Camp Crystal Lake and how they explained, like, you know, and the way they changed him up to be, instead of like he was just a very kind of nonplussed killer, that he was actually more like he looked like he was hunting game, and I like that, and I like that approach. Didn't like the ending because you're killing off someone you're trying to reboot a franchise. Makes no sense to me. But Nightmare on Elm Street we already spoke about, and Halloween, I think, you know, I hate Rob Zombie as a director. Like, I think he's a very trashy director, and I think
don't think he gets pros.
I just think he's the bad version of what horror actually is. I think he's what people that don't like horror think horror is. That's what he is. Yeah. He's a bad representation of the genre, and because he's such a classless director, and like, I don't. People love Rob Zombie, and that's their thing, that's their taste. Now, I don't want to badmouth anyone's taste in horror, and it's my taste in horror. I think there's other ways to tell the stories he tells in a very more kind of subtle way, a very more classy way, and not to have his wife in there shouting her fucking face off for 2 hours in my ear. It's like, Sherry Moon, shut the fuck up for a minute. Watch a movie here. Stop shouting. Yeah, I get it. You're probably ad-libbed half your lines because you can't remember them. Yeah, fair play. Stop shouting in my ear. I can't concentrate on this. And it's like, one of the most famous lines that people quote a lot is actually a line he stole from Ted Bundy's one of his.
I'm the devil and I'm here.
The devil's work was actually Tex something. I can't remember his surname, but Tex Watson. He was the guy that actually said that in real life, like, you know. But I just think Rob Zombie didn't get the franchise he was operating within. Something that really annoys me. Nightmare on Elm Street was just, I think you said in the last one, just took all the fun out of it. Yeah. Like, he's like, oh, like, another Freddy Krueger's like, cool, of course he can be a dark character. Of course he's a fucking pederast. Yeah. But he's the kind of guy who plays with his food. So he needs to be having fun. Yeah. And Robert Englund's still very fucking there. He's not dead. It's like we talked about Tony Todd. Why not bring Tony Todd back? He's as every bit as vital as that fucking 70-year-old dude that you got to play some bullshit Candyman bullshit, you know? I just think, like, you could have made that movie with Robert Englund and you would have had much more success, because and you could even start back from the start and go, oh, we want to cast new Nancy or whatever, because you put that makeup on Robert Englund, he's still going to look the exact fucking same. Yeah. I just think that movie was unnecessary the way they did it. Yeah. I love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre because even though all the people are in are good looking or whatever, the immensity and the way they cut them off in that movie, I love that. They just cut them off away from like civilization. You're in our fucking place now, and just the victims in it, the Jessica Biel and her, the rest of the cast in it, just kind of like they cut them off away from civilization, and they're just fucking playing with the prey. Yeah, the whole way through the movie, and I love that about that movie. It's really terrifying because I could imagine
there's like an inevitability to their demise.
Exactly.
That's a really good
you know what I mean, like
premise for a horror.
Yeah, exactly. And they were just like really, really, really terrifying in that movie. The whole because they changed it was the Sawyer family, I think, and they changed it to Hewlett or vice versa, but or Hewitt. Sorry, it was Hewitt originally. Thomas Hewitt, wasn't it?
Cannot remember.
But the name was changed anyway. It was Sawyer to Hewitt or vice versa, Hewitt to Sawyer. But and I just think that the family in the remake, every one of them are terrifying, and at the same time they capture some of the characters from the original. I think that's a good way of doing a remake. And like, I know we dropped Evil Dead, but Evil Dead's like the perfect example of you look at some of the ingredients, you go, I'm going to make a totally different pie. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna use a little bit of this cinnamon. I'm gonna use this, but I'm gonna add a lot of other ingredients.
Yeah.
And it's gonna have the same.
And a Necronomicon.
Exactly. So it's gonna taste kind of similar in the way like the aftertaste, but the ingredients itself is gonna be made up quite differently. You know, that kind of way.
His father said, I added cocaine. No, not cocaine. Cinnamon.
Always get those two mixed up. Is that Mrs. Dial? Yeah. So before we go to the break, I just think out of the four, the best.
Yeah, rank them because you're after going on a tangent there.
Yeah,
and you've broke them down. So now I just want a 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think
1 being best, 4 being worst.
Yeah. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1.
Cool.
Friday the 13th Friday the 13th, not part 2, but would be number
2
2
in your list. Yeah.
So both Marcus Nispel movies, I think he gets remakes. I think he should make more of them.
Okay.
And Nightmare on Elm Street, I want to give it part number 3. But because I hate Rob Zombie, but Rob Zombie's Halloween's a better movie than that Nightmare on Elm Street. It's clear for all to see, even though it's a trash movie. Like,
be fair, yeah.
Yeah, because
be harsh, but be fair.
Yeah, but even though he's like, oh, do you know what Michael Myers, this really stealthy killer that likes to operate in the shadows? Do you know what he could be? 7 feet tall, Tyler Mane. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Because like, could you imagine Halloween with Tyler Mane instead of I think it was Nick Castle or someone that played him originally, and I think Tommy Lee Wallace played him as well, and Nick Moran also played him. It's the guy you actually see with the mask comes off. But imagine he's like, hey Annie, I think someone was looking at me. He's behind the bush. Like the 7 foot tall guy. That I can see he's like a foot taller than that bush.
Wearing a very, very like fucking opaque, fucking bone coloured mask.
Yeah, and as well, like he's like. By the way, Michael Myers does not need Slipknot mask because that's why. But so I think I would go away. Texas Chainsaw Massacre because it's a slightly better movie than Friday the 13th, even though I appreciate it as both of them equally in a lot of ways. But no offense sitting here, motherfuckers. So I'd go Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Friday the 13th, and then I'd go with Rob Zombie's Halloween, and then I'd go with Nightmare on Elm Street. What would you go with?
I actually think you're right. Even if I might have disagreed on the 2 or 3, I would have gone 1 and 4 for sure. But I think you've definitely taken me around.
Yeah,
it's a good point.
Yeah, cool.
You know, it is like the like in its entirety. Yeah, even if you didn't love it. And even if it's a small line, it was a small margin.
It's like Vin Diesel says, they win by an inch or a mile, you still win. Like,
absolutely, A picture, what they call it, a picture finish or
a photo finish.
It still doesn't matter. 1 and 2. It goes down in the history books the same way.
I think it's like, as you like to say, it's not much in the muchness.
Yeah, not much in the muchness.
Yeah, I think that's the case of it. Like, so before we go to the break, that's my rankings for what I think of the remakes of the OG, and Noel's quite similar. I think you're saying you might move 2 and 3 around.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't think so. I think I'm with you. I think I'm with you.
Cool. So, right, this is Invasion of the Potty Snatchers, and we'll see you after break, motherfuckers. starting the series. We're going to get on to talk about first Welcome back from the break. This is Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. So Noel, before we went to the break, we broke down our thoughts about the remakes of the four OGs, like, you know, Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween,
the big slashers, really.
Yeah, exactly.
The, guys, the up close and personals.
Yeah, the kind of the pinnacle of the golden age of horror, which is the 70s and 80s in lots of ways. But now that was looking back with a Night to the Future. What do you think of? No, I haven't seen the I haven't seen Know What You Did Last Summer, the TV series, and I haven't seen the new Child's Play TV series. But can you, without kind of touching too much on plot points, because it'd be a future episode? But
this is another thing I suppose that could fall into the remake realm and stuff, is the fact that a lot of these things get reformatted for television.
Reformat is probably the best word.
Yeah, reformat is probably a good word. And in a lot of ways that works because you have 10 hours. Or 8 hours or 20 hours, whatever amount of episodes, whatever length of episode. I Know What You Did Last Summer, we're 4 or 5 in and it's decent. I mean to revisit it. With Chucky, I'm really, really, really enjoying it. I think with the difference between, I don't know how I feel about it ultimately, but the difference when you're doing it, I think, on television is just that thing. You are allowed time.
Yeah.
If you were watching the film and they said, right, and here's 40 minutes where we talk about, like, you know, watching Chucky, they actually dip into his past.
Yeah.
And one episode might dip into it quite heavily, but the next episode won't at all.
Yeah.
The next episode he'll have 2 kills, 3 kills. Really Chucky completely in manic mode.
Which is really hard to do in a 90-minute movie.
Which is really hard to do in a 90-minute movie. So I do think the one thing I like about it being actually Chucky, the show seems to be a continuation of the films.
Yeah.
It touches on, you know, like the actors, Andy exists and you know, like it talks back on Jennifer Tilly's.
Do you ever think they named Andy in Toy Story Andy because it's like a throwback to
I never have, but now I need to believe it's true.
You know what I mean? Because they both have the toys come alive.
Yeah, in very different turnout.
Yeah.
But I'm actually enjoying them. I do. This is the thing. I just think if you allow yourself time.
Yeah.
Although, like, if they did a Michael Myers TV show, like you said, we don't want them fleshed out. Chucky lends himself to that.
Yeah.
Something like I Know What You Did Last Summer, the Scream. They allow themselves that because the killer isn't some.
Well, like the thing with Child's Play, Charles E. Ray is a voodoo loving serial killer. I want to know more about that dude.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like,
and again, he falls more into the Freddy than he does the Michael Myers.
Yeah.
He's got an awful lot of personality.
Yeah,
he's got like philosophy, albeit a maniac's one.
Yeah.
On life, he thinks of it as cheap. He thinks he talks about it and I just love sometimes when in a film what I would consider very slow, in a show I consider world building.
Yeah.
So I do think the show, now that we're in the kind of the golden age of television, where again I always say this, I've said this so many podcasts, but you could have an episode of WandaVision that was like $25 million.
Yeah.
By the time you have like 8 episodes of that, you had the money that would cost to make a feature-length Marvel movie.
Yeah.
So the TV is kind of, it's well funded and
at the highest level,
and it's at the highest level. So I do think for that I find it a lot less frustrating. And the thing is, I don't end up going to the cinema and being real disappointed. I go into something like I watched Scream and I honestly can't remember much about it, and that's fine.
The TV series,
yeah, I can't remember much about it. Don't remember who the killer was. Don't remember anything. I remember I didn't like the mask.
I was actually about to say that. Why do you think they changed the just to make it?
Because they have to,
just to make it different.
Yeah, just to make it different. But I kind of like the dollar store. Mask. I just like it
so hard to treat
because all the mask actually is supposed to be is you not being able to identify me if you survive. That's all the mask was.
And it's a case of like it's the kind of mask that you can get everywhere.
It's the kind of exactly. You know, in Scream 4 they had a barn party and loads of kids were wearing ghost face masks.
Yeah.
So Ghostface was literally able to walk amongst them completely on the spot. That was cool. The mask was a bit more. But again, the TV format, it allows you to have, I think, more fun with it. And that's what it boils down to is, I expect this, and this from 90 minutes. And if you bog down with Mary Jane singing 3 songs in a film that's already extremely compacted, then I'm going to get very frustrated with you. But
it's like, we get it, the relationship's complicated, move on, Sam Raimi. Jesus Christ, did you not know fucking Spider-Man or Peter Parker Spider-Man the end of part 2? Why are we still having this fucking bullshit?
Yeah, why are we still here?
Yeah.
But I do think I am enjoying the series. I'm even glad that it doesn't get like dropped on Netflix. There's something about, you forgot that sometimes in the olden days, in the before times, that you had to wait a week for a Simpsons. Or whatever it was, you actually had to wait a week. Do you remember that shit? This reminds me now, and I'm looking forward to the Chuckies. Chuckies are something that right now are a little treat. There's one out today. I'm going to watch it when I get home, and I'm really, really looking forward to it.
And you said you're really enjoying the TV series, and it went with Chucky instead of Child's Play, which I'm sure is a rights issue thing.
They never even say it, John.
Yeah,
it's not.
So when you look at the TV series, I haven't seen it yet, but you seem to be really enjoying it, which is cool because I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Well, I am. Yeah, personally, I am.
But within the franchise, you've seen the Child's Play reboot recently?
Yes.
Yeah, where they even changed it. His name's not. What was his name in the first one? Tommy the Good Time Doll or some shit.
Oh God! You're after.
Yeah, I was
Tommy. I'm Tommy, and I'm your friend.
Yeah, the Good Guy Doll.
Good Guy Doll.
Yeah, Good Guy Doll. So, like, and they even changed it to Buddy and shit like that. But what did you make of?
Are you talking about the newest incarnation that had Mark Hamill?
That's great. Like, so what did you make of?
That was a reimagining.
Yeah, what do you think of it?
Oh, I enjoyed it, actually, to be honest. Yeah. I like the AI gone completely out of control thing versus the soul of a man.
Yeah. They went technological instead of supernatural.
This is a film I hadn't seen.
Yeah.
Again, and it's touched on. We've seen AI gone wrong. We've seen Skynet. We've seen it on huge and small scales. Even what was that one with the kid from Sixth Sense?
Joel Osment,
AI, which was like a reimagining of Pinocchio, and that was excellent.
One of my favourite science fiction movies.
I really enjoyed it. A lot of people had like beef with it, but again, didn't, when it isn't trying, when it's like, we're going with the Chucky premise, but when it isn't trying to just carbon copy something, you shouldn't hold it as a carbon copy and judge it on that.
Yeah, like Evil Dead.
Like Evil Dead.
About,
it wasn't trying to be a carbon copy. It was like, we're taking this, and this, and we're calling it Evil Dead. Don't worry, we're not trying to pretend we're making a new film.
I think that's what annoys people.
But this was something that wasn't done, and I really liked it. Mark Hamill, of course, is one of the best voice actors in the world.
Is he though?
Come on, Mark Hamill.
Every single voice is Joker voice.
There was a nice incarnation of it for Chucky. I liked his Chucky
the Joker voice?
It wasn't the Joker voice. It was close to the Joker voice.
Like when he's Skeletor, I was like, I can't wait to hear Mark Hamill as Skeletor. I was like, well, if you heard him play Joker, it's the exact same voice. It's all he does though. Like,
but even though we've had so many Jokers,
not a great one.
Even though we've had so many Jokers, when I hear Joker in my head, I hear Mark Hamill.
Yeah, well, I hear Heath Ledger. Why so serious?
But no, I really enjoy it. But I liked it as a standalone as well. I just think it works as a standalone. Yeah. And of course, you had to go back to Charles Lee Ray because Charles Lee Ray is so vital. Like somebody who has a personal.
Do you not think it's annoying though? Like, it's so unnecessary to have Mark Hamill be the voice. Oh, it's only for a need of difference. Like our movie's different.
But if you're going to make a non-voodoo doll. If you're going to move away from the Charles... If you moved away from Charles Lee Ray, because that, like, he's not Chucky, he's Charles Lee Ray.
Yeah.
And this Chucky was supposed to have a more kind of simple kind of premise. Even though it's quite complicated. It's like high advanced AI that can, like, interact with...
It's supposed to be a smart toy.
Yeah.
So it's called a smart toy, isn't it? Like it's like a learning toy, like, and it interacts with you and all this shit. Yeah. And it shows you, like, because as you said, like, what if AI or high level technology gets out of hand? Yeah. And it starts controlling drones.
It was different, isn't it? Like, even if you didn't like it, that's fine. But at least it was different.
Yeah, but like
fucking hate when they try and give me the same film again, and they just end up making a worse version of the film I've already seen.
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street is always going to be the pinnacle of that, perhaps for me.
Especially when we're talking horror.
When we're talking horror, if you want to stay in the genre.
Yeah, I just want to say, it's a total side note. I went to see Eternals today, and I seen the trailer for West Side Story, and I want to say Steven Spielberg, for a dude that likes to say that Marvel movies are a carbon copy, you guys are making remakes. Like,
Yeah.
make fucking new movies then, carbon
Yeah.
copy, motherfucker. That's literally carbon copy. Like,
Who do you think you are, Steve? Oh shit.
well, like, he hasn't made a good movie in a long while. Like, the last time he made a good movie was Ready Player One, in my opinion. Like, what else
Was
has he
what?
done? Ready Player One, I think, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah, like,
That's 14 or something.
like a
is
war
it?
horse. Like, fuck off. Come on,
I
dude.
haven't even seen Ready Player One.
Have you not? No.
No.
Oh, awesome.
I heard it should.
So much fun.
Yeah.
So much fun. Just such a fun film, like.
Yeah, and it seems like out of step for Steven Spielberg. He's not afraid to get out of his comfort zone.
Well, he makes great blockbusters. Did Jurassic Park, like, you know what I mean, like, so.
that was decent.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, he did E.T., he did Jaws. He's the
Again, the rehash kind of, I don't know if you call it rehab, but like they went a different way with Jurassic Park as well, and a reformatted to go back.
Well,
to that
I think
word.
that's a great example of a reboot.
Yeah.
They rebooted. They stayed within the franchise that already existed, but they recreated it in a different way. And I love the way. I actually really love Jurassic World. I thought Dominion wasn't as good. The sequel in the new franchise. I thought the first one was very enjoyable. It was really cool to see the park actually open, and to see the mayhem of what ensues when there's actually a couple of thousand
training
people there.
velociraptors.
Yeah, it was
kind of like dogs. Like,
like
it's
like, I'm sure that would end badly every single time.
Yeah.
But no, like, so, like, I don't know. I just think when you have someone like a Brad the Riff that's so linked to
The Riff, I thought it was Dorf
or maybe it is like
I'm not sure. I only ever seen the Riff.
Grima Wormtongue. So,
Yeah.
but when you have him, like, it's like I said about these guys, Tony Todd and Robert Englund, why are we shelving these guys and they still exist? We only have them for a certain amount of time.
Well, I
You know
think
what
again,
Like,
I think if you're reimagining, if you're completely changing the narrative again, if it's not Charles, because he played Charles Lee Ray to me, and if you don't have Charles,
well, he did the voice of Chucky.
Mark Hamill's Chucky didn't have Charles Lee Ray, and if you wanted me to believe it was a kind of an interactive thing, if you put his voice in it, that would have been confusing to me. I think so. In that context, you have to say it at least made sense. But at the same time, he will always be Chucky. Like, you're not allowed to make one standalone film and claim it. And I don't. To be fair to Mark Hamill, I'm sure he doesn't.
Like, I think when you look at, like, that's the difference. I think the Child's Play and Nightmare on Elm Street in particular, and because of their speaking roles, anyone can be Michael Myers really as long as they fit the build. Anyone could be Jason Voorhees as long as they fit the build. Even though, you know, Kane Hodder's be like one of the more iconic ones that play Jason Voorhees. But anyone can be them. Like literally, I think it was Derek Mears that played him in the remake. Like, as long as he's big and formidable, like that word was for me
You
to
have
say.
no lines.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's like the darkest days. But like, anyone can be them.
And the best posture.
Yeah. So like I think when you look at all the guys that played Michael Myers, I don't know them all off by heart, and Jason Voorhees, a lot of them didn't look out of place apart from Tyler Mane for me, 7 foot tall guy that's supposed to skulk in the shadows. Makes no sense. It's kind of like when you watch the Predator remake, it's like, oh, do you know what we're going to do with this stealth killer that operates on stealth and is all about stealth? We're going to make one that's 15 feet tall.
Yeah.
What's he going to hide amongst? Mountains?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Reminds me of I just seen recently a baby elephant that was robbing sugarcane, so it tried to hide behind the telephone book.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Like, you do know, baby or not, you're still an elephant.
Yeah, exactly.
Not working, dude. It's not working. Like.
But I've only seen the Child's Play reboot once, but I just think I didn't think it was a necessary movie. Really, a lot of people thought, it was good. Like, I enjoy it. I'm not gonna lie, it's not a bad movie. I just don't think it's a necessary movie because it's, once again, the franchise thing is, it's so like hand in fist with voodoo. Like, the whole thing, the fucking incantation he recites before he gets into the body. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, so, like, I just think when you have something that's so intrinsically attached to the nature of the character, as you said, we don't have a Charles Lee Ray in the new one because it's all technology and bullshit.
But that was a standalone because it seemed to be in the
it's a
Chucky
standalone
series.
because it's shit, man. It's not going to get sequels.
I loved where he killed the fucking the superintendent of the building. Thought that was some great fucking kill. Because and something that could interact with, because we rely on technology so much. Yeah, something that can interact with our technology is very, very scary. Yeah, you know, because that is the world we live in now.
I would punt that motherfucker into a lake. Game
well, that's
over.
it. You're watching the Chucky thing, and he relies on the fact that he's a doll, and you're not afraid of him.
I would beat Chucky 100% of the time.
Not if you didn't know he was not if you didn't know that one of the fucking dolls sitting in this room was a Chucky. Yeah, you'd be like, oh, I'd beat him.
You
like,
think
what, that dog there jumped down on you, knife in the neck.
Yeah, why you think I don't scope him out? You don't even.
Why do you think my arms are up?
Yeah. Why do you think I got that bear over there? I know he's going to be sentient, but I treat him very well. Yeah, he's got my back.
He's got your back.
Yeah, I mean, Giles a fuck up murder bear, aka murder bear.
but do you agree that maybe if they're going to revisit old things, they want want to delve into them, that maybe a TV format might be more suitable?
Yeah, like I think for an era of people like us, we're people that grew up reading comic books are becoming more and more prevalent, and people that enjoy that long form storytelling. Like as you said, like earlier on about the Chucky TV series, that you have an episode where it delves completely into someone's past, Charity Red's past, and then the next one's completely
Not at all. Yeah, it gets you back on track.
Exactly, and because you only have to wait 7 days for the next installment, you'll allow that a little bit of filler, a little bit of backstory, and because we're so used to long form storytelling, because a lot of the people now that watch mainstream TV and beyond are comic book and graphic novel fans, and we often say like there's no greater form of long form storytelling than graphic novels.
No.
So people that there's no reason why, or it's no coincidence why you have hand in hand that you have the generation that grew up reading comic books are the ones that are making the golden age television. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's just that I think it's the appreciation for the long form storytelling. But like I haven't seen Know What You Did Last Summer, but I think it's a very simplistic premise to remake at any kind of era, really, because it's about some group of kids that have a secret that someone's holding against them or killing them. That's pretty much the premise.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
so,
yeah.
But and the same with Scream. Scream is the kind of thing that, as long as you have a Sidney Prescott around, and even as long as you have the legend of Sidney Prescott, you don't even need it for a TV series in that way, because you're operating in the shadow of the events.
Yeah.
So I think Scream, even though it wasn't a great show, I think it wasn't a bad show either.
Again, I haven't watched it in 2 years.
Mask was stupid as fuck.
Yeah, I remember not liking the mask. It's literally all I remember.
It's like, oh, we got Halloween, Friday the 13th coming out, and we're going to give a soccer mask. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, oh, white. You know what I mean? But I just think that was unnecessary. But so looking into the future a bit more, because like what remakes are really on the horizon? I know there's another Evil Dead coming out, directed by an Irish dude, Lee Cronin, who did Hole in the Ground. I think I'm not sure if that's a reboot or remake, or if it's another standalone in the same sense of a Fede Alvarez's 2013 one, which the best thing about Evil Dead is it really leans itself to standalone movies, because it's just about poor unfortunate fuckers finding the Necromonicon and shit happening to them. So that's pretty much what you can do with Evil Dead constantly over and over again. I wouldn't even call it even a reboot. It's just because you're not saying Bruce Campbell's Ash storyline didn't exist. You're not saying this didn't happen or whatever. But you can kind of say that, like, maybe that you can say that, even though I think Evil Dead doesn't the world end eventually. He sleeps too long or something.
But that's one of the two endings.
Yeah,
I think that's the one they went with. I
Yeah.
think there was another one where he's back in S-Mart.
Yeah.
And he Deadite shows up and he just, builds.
Shop smart. Shop S-Mart.
Shop S-Mart.
But on the horizon, like we spoke a little bit before we came back from the break, was The Thing. That's a remake itself to John Carpenter, the iconic movie from 1982 of Who Goes There, is it? Was the original?
Yeah.
Or is it A Thing from Another World or something? Actually, Who Goes There I think might be in the book. And A Thing from Another World was the original from the 50s. But on the horizon is that we talked about is that the original thing was made from the novella. I think the one from the 50s was made based on the James Campbell, I think, I'll check his name. I think he did the novella, and now even John Carpenter's works was inspired by the novella. But something I told you was that during the period of time that book was being created, a lot of the manuscript was actually lost, and what we saw was a truncated version. And in the meantime, somebody actually sought it out and found the full manuscript. And on the horizon, I sent you, like, there's a bus stop image I saw recently online, and I said Outpost 31. And I don't know if this is going to be a remake, a reimagining, or a sequel, or whatever. But, like, what do you think of Another Thing movie? Do you think it's necessary, or are you happy to see it come back? And what way do you think what form do you think they'll have, like an RJ McCready? Do you think we'll have another Windows, another Childs, or whatever, or do you think we'll be new characters?
I don't know, actually. It's so kind of just came into my purview so recently that all I can feel now is excitement. Again, this is the thing about Remake. Despite all of the criticisms that I've given, I kind of stand by them. I still can't help but get excited about something that I love. Yeah, and that's what they bank on. Yeah, and they know they probably have my 15 quid. They just do.
It's too limitless.
But what they're going to do, I don't know. I don't even know if it's going to continuation or they're just going to go back to square one. And all I ever think in my head is that this was a thing where I just love practical format. And even if CGI look better, I'm still such a kind of elitist asshole that sometimes I just respect that. Just the breakdown, just somebody sitting there with animatronics and ballistic gel and
I think
corn syrup and just making something fucking amazing
with those
from it.
bladders.
Yeah.
Like when they make the skin bulge and shit
Exactly,
like that. I think like when you have a Greg Nicotero out there right now that's doing wonders on the Walking Dead franchise and TV series.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can easily get him to come in and he could have the same impact on a thing like the way Rob Bottin did on the original, or not the original, but the 1982 thing. Like, I just think like it's like the remake, if they, or not the remake, sorry, the prequel, if they had done practical effects in that movie, I think people would rate it not as good as the 1982 movie, but they wouldn't be trouncing it like the way they do.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
You know what I mean?
That's what, because there was something so vulgarly disgusting about the original that just wasn't captured in the 2011 film.
Because you knew it wasn't there.
Because you knew it wasn't there.
Yeah.
You know, so play, and it wasn't like the greatest special effects you'll ever see. It wasn't the highest budget you'll ever see, and it's like 10 years, which is a long time in movies. You know.
CGI is gone.
We watched the original Iron Man recently, and it's absolutely brilliant. You can just see and the special effects were great, but you can even just see how leaps and bounds it came along in the years. But I don't know. It's a results game for me.
Yeah,
it's going to be a results game. Proof will be in the pudding.
Yeah.
And at least they're not rushing it. This isn't something that they're just bleeding and bleeding and bleeding. The thing has been, I know there was the 50s, there was the 80s, there was the early 10s, and now we're having the 20s. And I'm like, wow, at least they're not trying to completely bastardize it.
Yeah,
because
it's not
Scream
like
has
Terminator
had 4 films, and now there's going to be a 5th film, and there was already a TV series.
Yeah.
So they've, like, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street, as, you know, you had Freddy versus Jason, you had... I know Jason Voorhees has been in 12 films maybe now, because you had the remake recently. You had Jason versus Freddy. You had Jason X.
Yeah.
So that's what 12
films.
Yeah, 12 films. Like, you know. So at least they're not bastardizing it as much. But I know so little about it at this stage. It's hard to say. Yeah.
I think of all the franchises, because simply because of when it was created, I think. Well, I suppose the Chucky too, because he lives inside a doll. The Scream is the only one that I think deserves to have these sequels right now. I think Halloween, I don't like, and I'm enjoying these new movies, and I love seeing Halloween movies, don't get me wrong, but I just think Halloween belongs so much to a different era now that I think we should just let go of Halloween. I really do believe that. Like, I don't you know, I just think we're going to have 13 movies, I think, by the time Halloween Ends comes out. And I think we really need to let go of that franchise. And I love that franchise, but we're going to have, not like I'm going to be shorter movies to watch for Halloween. No. There's 13 movies, like, you know what I mean? And, like, some of them are good, like, you know, so I just think, like, the Scream, it only has 4 movies. It's only from the 90s. Nearly all of the cast is still alive, as far as I know. Like, especially all the main players, David Arquette, Courtney Cox, and Neve Campbell. So, like, Neve Campbell. Yeah. So, like, I just think, I don't mind seeing more Screams, and I don't mind, like,
Scream lends itself to something. There's nothing supernatural about it. It's about a maniac trying to get their pound of flesh and get in on the lore of it, as opposed to...
Yeah, it's like the constant copycat in this. Yeah.
Like, you know, she shot her boyfriend in the head. He's dead.
Yeah.
And he's been dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Since 1996.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Yeah, and that's what, like, one thing I liked about Scream is that, like, everybody is still in their 40s or maybe early 50s, whatever. Those people still exist. Right, so, like, and that's the one thing that Halloween kind of had for it, was Jamie Lee Curtis is still vital. You know what I mean? Like, and you could have that kind of thing where, like, but, like, I just think Halloween now, it came from 1978. And we're still, it's 1978, wasn't it? And we're still, like, literally going back to the original. Like, literally, like, you can continue on the thing and have him still be 40 years older and not have to reboot everything and all that shit. But, like, I just think now, with a franchise like Halloween, it's got 13 movies, and it's belonged so much, it's covered the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 90s, the 10s, and now it's going to go into the 2020s, right? I just think we need to leave that franchise alone.
Yeah.
Because now we're so bereft of creativity that we're banking on a franchise that's almost 50 years old.
But even when they aren't bereft of creativity, they're trying to make something new. It's still based on Stephen King books. They're still it's not as if they're source material. That's the thing I don't understand. Yeah, it's not like they're sitting there going, right, everything's been done. There's nothing for us to work on. Man, there's 80 million horror books out there.
Yeah,
some of them with amazing premises. There's probably some absolute phenomenal stories that have not been told. So if you don't have an absolute original concept, read.
Yeah, exactly.
Read.
Exactly. Like, and there's people out there that, like, you could, instead of paying people to read scripts, you need to start paying people to read books.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
People who you've trusted to write scripts, like Proof in the Pudding, they've made movies, they've made money.
Yeah.
those people
Need to go
because
read.
I know it's cutthroat. It's
Yeah.
not like give everyone a chance. No, it's cutthroat. The people who have proved their worth.
Yeah.
And man, make them read. Make them absolutely read.
Yeah, and I think you touched on something like the amount of things that have been based on Stephen King works is insane. And then there's stuff that's been remade.
And all hail the king,
of course.
But at the same time, he's not the only horror writer that's ever existed.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know what I mean?
He's not the only horror writer featured on the bookshelves behind you.
Yeah.
That probably don't have any films about them. I know The Strain was made into a TV show.
I actually don't have. The only Stephen King book I have is Stephen King on writing. That's it. I love Max Brooks.
There's something there. There's something even on that shelf, a humble amount of books that probably hasn't been done.
Yeah.
And that's it. So you don't even have to. It's just that everybody.
Humble
I know everyone's
amount of
looking for
books,
that quick
lousy.
book. So and the thing is, if you buy the rights and you're able to slap, it's the thing. You could make a Superman movie kind of going. We don't have the rights, so I'm just thinking like take away Heat Vision, keep the Will Smith film.
Yeah, Hancock.
Bad.
Yeah.
Bad film. But like at the same time, if that just had the word Superman,
Yeah.
because that word is worth so much that there's literally money to be made in that. I'll give you 60 million, but this promises 80 million,
Yeah.
and then we make a movie. But I think at the same time, maybe people need to just chance. Maybe just bring somebody else to the front.
Yeah, do we have like what are the really modern fucking like? When you look at horror villains, like how long are we going to keep banking on Leatherface? How long?
Indefinitely, it seems.
Yeah, and like because I know actually another remake that's on the horizon is Hellraiser. I actually want to talk about that in a sec. But like, how long are we going to keep going back to Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees? Like Jason Voorhees in particular. We've had like 12 movies, you just said, but it's over a decade since we had a Friday the 13th, like, you know what I mean? So maybe there is a case to have another Friday the 13th movie because it's been 10 years or whatever. But like, how long do we keep going back to these characters? Because like, you're going to have to start rebooting them. Somebody talked before, because you're going to age the characters out of existence. Because Michael Myers is now 80.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm worried.
Oh, yeah, but
You know what I mean?
he's a killing machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And the thing is, it really comes down to you, the consumer, and unfortunately, it's not like me and you. We could say, right, fuck it, you know what, I'm out.
Yeah.
And me and you don't go and see Halloween. But if millions of other people do, it does not matter that we didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I do think, unfortunately, it's a case of we absolutely, us, the consumer, have always had 100% of the power.
Yeah.
But there's too many of us to get on the same page.
Yeah.
So they're just banking on that. So honestly, indefinitely, because what's been put to bed? Bates Motel, that was another thing. Actually enjoyed it.
I've only seen season 1. I heard it's good though.
Yeah, there you go. And I guess to delve into his actual relationship with his mother. And that's pretty cool, but at the same time, I know there's going to be a Bates Motel in 20 years, or there's going to be a Psycho, or there's going to be a reimagining of him, but he's in a fancy, luxurious hotel in New York, and they're going to like take on like the way AI did with Pinocchio. It was an excellent adaptation of a story that was been told hundreds of years ago. Yeah. So honestly, I don't see any end to it. Well, like I don't even think like they're talking about this next Halloween film like they're going to wrap it up, are they? But
yeah. Like I think I'm hoping to do. Because 13, like 13 movies is enough, and I love Michael Myers centric movies. Like, don't get me wrong, I've seen every single Halloween like many times, except for Kills because it's only out recently. But I just think that comes a case where something I think I mentioned in one of the other episodes was I like seeing remakes in a sense because I love revisiting these franchises, but I'd rather see them not be at the expense of new properties. But we're constantly seeing at the expense of new properties, and I think that's the problem because like I know post-pandemic and something I touched upon before was we're going to see a lot of people banking on built-in franchises with built-in fan bases because you're going to need a reason to get people back in the cinema again after the coronavirus and shit, and then so you're going to have a Scream 5, you have these Halloween trilogies, and they're going to ramp them up and all this, and you're going to see something we talked about was like a Hellraiser, even though that's going to be on Hulu, but you're going to see these things where in the cinema you're going to see a lot more reboots, remakes and sequels because these are franchises that already have fan bases attached to them, and the surest way to get a fan base into a cinema is to give them something that they know and love.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Familiarity, though. That's the problem with us.
Yeah, it's like what you said with Halloween. If we don't go, still like everybody else is going to go.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, so it doesn't really matter, like, because they have to build in that fan base. Like,
I'm saying, talk about music. Like, I'm a big metalhead, and I always say, like, oh, you like Metallica? If you like them, you should really check out King Diamond. Yeah. Or you should really check out. You know, like Diamond Head is another band. Yeah. Motorhead. You could go on and on, and people go, yeah, I will, but they don't. Yeah. And they probably would, but no, but they like Metallica. This is comfortable. Yeah. It's not that I'm looking to expand. It's not that I'm looking to. I like this. This is comfortable. Yeah. Oh, they're releasing a new album. Absolutely fantastic. And good or bad, they're just such a huge titan that the word Metallica carries so much weight that people just kind of go, no, that's what I know.
Yeah.
I could say, you know, if you like Halloween, you should check out this. It's a great series, but it doesn't have the word Halloween.
Yeah.
And that's the branding. That's what we need to get away. It's like with somebody, people buy Kanye West clothes for $700 because they have
Yeezys
or whatever, because they've got a word, because they've got Nike on them, or because whatever it is. And just that word, thankfully that's one thing I've never bought into. I'm just comfortable when I'm comfortable. But like that, people buy into branding, and that's something that's so ingrained into us, man.
Something you know,
we're all Gucci gang.
Something you know about more than I would be the Hellraiser franchise. And what do you make of what do you make of the Hellraiser TV series or stream? Like, do you still call it TV series if it's a streaming service?
I honestly don't know. That's a good point.
Because I suppose it's on your telly.
Yeah.
So. But what do you make of this? Because I heard in the original written by Clive Barker, Hellbound Heart, that Pinhead is called the Priest.
It's called the Dark Priest.
A Dark Priest, is it?
They just started calling Doug Bradley Pinhead on set.
Yeah.
And nobody in any film ever refers to him as Pinhead.
Yeah.
Actually, nobody ever refers to him as anything. You know, he's evil, Cenobite, the thing, or whatever. Like they call
what do you make of the choice of having? I think it's what's her fucking name? I don't know her name, but she's a female actor, but like I think she's trans, so I really don't know if I'm supposed to refer to her as trans.
She's in Sense8.
Yeah,
she was in Sense8. Yeah, and it's a trans woman.
Yeah, so yeah, that's what I'm saying. I didn't know whether or not just to call her a female actor or maybe.
Oh yeah, she's female actor. She's just a trans woman.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So like, what do you make of her being recast as Pinhead instead of, like, obviously Doug Bradley's pretty old now?
Well, Doug Bradley's pretty old, and again, like. The first three Hellraisers I loved, the fourth one I didn't hate, and then it went so far off track that I'm either ready for them to kill it, and if it was up to me, maybe kill it. Honestly, because they've made so many disappointing films, kill it. But if they're going to do it, then why not? Just give me something new. Give me a whole new interpretation of it. And again, I wish her all the best. I will check it out and go into it with an open mind. Yeah, but proof will be in the pudding again. Yeah. Because again, TV format just lends itself. It's just time. It's not even like imagination. It's not that it's better or worse. It's fucking time. That's all it is.
Yeah, like I wonder, will they try and recapture that similar tone from the original? Like, because the original is so dark, and even in part 2 where she goes,
and it's all in a house. Yeah, they made one of the best horror films ever. One of the most high concept horror films.
And so
they made it
disturbing.
in a house.
Yeah, exactly. It's just in a rundown house in Brooklyn or something.
Absolutely insane.
I haven't seen Sense8. Is she good? Is she a good actress?
She's an excellent actress.
Yeah. Do you say actress or actor now?
I think everyone's an actor now.
Yeah.
I think everyone's an actor now.
Because we talked about, because you don't genderize jobs. You don't say stockbroker S.
Yeah, you won't say doctor S.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Or nurse
R.
R.
Nurses Noel.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But so yeah, no, I think she's an actor. But yeah, she was actually excellent in Sense8. I absolutely loved her in it. I really did. But that's the only thing I have. And of course, Sense8 does not lend itself straight away. Like Jim Carrey, I see him in like Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, and then you see The Mask, and you're going, "Oh, that'll be perfect for him." Yeah, because it's so obvious. Yeah, it just switches right across the manic Jim Carrey. She's not a manic character. She's a very calculated character, intelligent and stuff like that. But Pinhead is like a primordial evil. Well, he's kind of brought into a primordial evil, and so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, a very comfortable actor, a very good actor, and I'm really looking forward to it. I am. I'm not, because this is the thing. You're. It's like going to watch a game and you support a certain team, and you're kind of going, "This is either going to be great or break my heart. It's not going to be a middle ground." Yeah.
Do you think they're going to give her the pins and the bald head?
Oh God, I hope to. I hope to God.
Like, do you think they're going to give her a bald head?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll go all out.
I've seen loads of concept art online with like female pinheads and stuff like that, and it is kind of cool looking, like, you know what I mean?
In the comics, there is a female pinhead, and it's just that she's just bald and she is a pinhead. It's just
but even that, like, we already had a female Cenobite and she was terrifying. So
yeah, absolutely.
Even though I kind of poo-pooed it at the start, but I really don't know enough about Hellraiser in comparison to other franchises.
Well, there you go. Well, Hellraiser 5 was just fucking
because
stupid.
people said there was a female pinhead in this story originally or something.
Well, I gave up on it after female. I've seen 6. Yeah. And I gave up on it after that. Oh no, I seen the last one, and it's not to be watched by anyone under any circumstances.
The one where it goes to space or something.
No, actually, that was 4.
4, is it?
But no, the newest one was supposed to be again a reformat, reimagining. It tried to disappear up its own arse in artisticness. Ended up being a nothing film. It made no sense.
Oh, like Candyman.
No pay. Oh yeah, it was way worse.
Yeah,
way worse.
Yeah,
at least Candyman had like at least a death or two.
Did Hellraiser have super racism in it?
No, it didn't have super racism.
Yeah. So was it worse? But yeah, like. That should be an interesting one. I look. I don't really know a lot about the actor, so maybe I should go and check out Sense8 or something.
Oh yeah, Sense8 was a great show, and it got cancelled and brought back, and they got to wrap it up their own way. But it's definitely well worth. Definitely well worth.
Shit. What was it? There was another one I was going to say to you. TV series. Oh yeah. So. We already talked about Hellraiser and Chucky, and we even touched on the Scream one, because actually a lot of these horrors actually are ending up on streaming services, and we talked about Know What You Did Last Summer. But like on the horizon, and I'm not sure if we could classify it as a remake, but I'm not sure if it's incorporated or operates within the same world that we know. But Dan Trachtenberg at the moment is working on a TV series based in the Alien universe. And what do you think of... Like, some people have said there's leaks coming out that there's going to be like a smart xenomorph that being trained. Like, if that's the case, that show is going to go off the fucking rails.
They have murdered aliens. I mean, they've done bad things to some franchises, but they have really, really shit on xenomorphs. Yeah. They have absolutely shot the bed on them. I have no hope for the franchise whatsoever. I just think that they're trying to, like, what if you had a perfect killing machine, leave it and we don't know where it came from. That was brilliant.
We don't need to
leave it the fuck alone. So no, if what you've said is true, that they have a smart xenomorph, all of them are smart xenomorphs. They are smart, but you are its fucking cattle. It doesn't give a fuck about you, and it's not even personal.
He just wants to get you, and
it's survival of its species over the survival of yours, which is exactly what you're doing.
And what you
remember Ripley had the line, I don't know what's worse, you or them. They don't see them fucking each other over for a percentage. Great fucking line. That's what was so perfect about the
Paul Reiser, wasn't
it? But again, like, it was so terrifying. Imagine if a spider, if an ant was like 50, 60, 100, 1,000 times bigger. It would tear you apart. But again, the indifference it would have to you is what's so horrifying.
It cut you in half like a leaf.
But it won't be personal. It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't care about your family, or it wouldn't think about that. It doesn't think on those terms. And that's what's so cool about Xenomorph. It's complete and total indifference. Even predators have an actual code, or they respect you. And that's quite cool about them, but that's their thing. But xenomorphs don't. They literally just introduce something that's higher up the pecking order. And that's like the food chain, and that's what's so cool about it. So if they're going to make smart xenomorphs, and they're going to have this, like, oh, what if we went this way and this way and this way, and overcomplicate something that was so beautifully linear, then I have no time for it.
I just think, I'm like you, it's like the whole thing with Alien, you just need to put loads of people in a confined space and have aliens try and kill them.
Claustrophobia, and no one can hear in space, no one can hear you scream. Like, powerful weapons in areas where you can't even shoot them. So much of that was great.
Exactly. Like, I just think with Alien, it's kind of like if the major basis is kind of like, we put you against this ultimate killing machine, and we'll take away all your ways of killing it effectively.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's kind of like what Alien 1 did as well. They didn't really have weapons in Alien, and in Aliens, like, as you said, they were underneath the reactor or something, so they couldn't fire their guns. But like, I don't really have any expectations at all for an Alien TV series. I know Dan Trachtenberg has a good record and he's made some good stuff, but I just don't see it.
But they killed it. Like, they killed it for me.
I think Ridley Scott kind of killed it because he was just being an asshole. Because, like, Neil Blomkamp, and I'm not going to say Neil Blomkamp makes flawless movies every time, but Neil Blomkamp had an idea of how to, and even though we don't like it when they do this, but he had an idea of cutting away 3 and 4 from the continuity and pick it straight back up from how Aliens finished. And he was going to make it, and then Ridley Scott was like, nah, I want to make Covenant. Nah. I'm like, but dude, you're supposed to make an Alien movie while you're making your David movie too, right, dude? Like, but I just think our expectations are so lower now.
But lower than anything else we've talked about.
Because it's such a Rolls Royce of a franchise. You know what I mean? It's got 2 of the greatest science fiction horror movies, science fiction movies of all time. Because second one, less horror, even though there is
more action. Sci-fi action kind of.
But I just think, I know, it'd be like having it, someone said, "Oh, we're making a Godfather TV series." I'm like, "Are you now?
Are you?
Good for you."
Yeah,
let's see how that goes.
Yeah,
because the first 2 movies are 10 out of 10 movies.
Yeah.
Like, so...
No, don't get me wrong, Al Pacino, extremely replaceable actor.
Yeah.
Like prime Al Pacino. You don't need him, just get some...
Yeah, it kind of harkens back to Scarface.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's not like there was a character who got 2 Oscars with 2 different fucking actors.
Yeah.
He's such a good character.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, no, I just think, when it comes to, like, when I heard about the Chucky TV series, I was kind of excited, especially when I heard Don Mancini was attached to it, who's came up with the original concept. I think it was Tom Holland who directed the original. I actually had Don Mancini himself correct me on Twitter. That was a pain in my ass. I was like, ouch. I was like, sorry. But like, he was really nice about it. But it's kind of like bitch slap, and I was like, and I will take it. It's kind of like when we had Steve Rubin on when he corrected me about James Bond. I didn't even argue because I knew he was right. Yeah. You know, and I kind of it's like because sometimes when the
know your place.
Sometimes the correction comes from a place that's irrefutable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But like when Chucky came out, because of Don Mancini being attached, Brad Dourif being attached, I'm pretty excited, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. I know what you did last summer, kind of flew under the radar a little bit and came out, and then
I haven't revisited it, but I'm a few episodes in.
Yeah, so I heard about that after the fact, and I had no expectations because I didn't know it was coming out. Scream, I think, because of the way they made the TV series and the way the franchise operates, it's very remakeable and redoable. So the TV series, even though it obviously doesn't live up to the 4 from the franchise, it's still a worthy success, or it belongs nicely within the universe of Ghostface, even though it's slightly different. But the Thing coming up, like you know, and anybody knows me, my favourite horror movie of all time is probably The Thing.
Yeah.
So
I think it irrefutably is, to be honest.
Yeah. So I honestly don't even think I have any. Like, I don't even think my brain even understands the need for expectations for a new Thing one.
Yeah.
You know.
But the Thing has to be. It's so perfect. You're just like cautiously optimistic or optimistically cautious.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been killed.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's 3 Thing movies, as you said.
Yeah.
One was like in the 1951, 52 or something. Next one was like 30 years later. The following one was more like 2011.
Which would have been 20.
Yeah, so it's 29 years later or something like that. Like, so it should have really held off for one more year.
Yeah.
The 30-year anniversary, idiot.
No, it was 30. Sorry, 2011.
Yeah, no,
2011 been 29 years later.
That's what I'm saying. Should have held off for a year.
Held off for the 30,
fucking idiots. But like, then you could have had a big anniversary box set. No, I don't know marketing. But so when it comes to Alien, it's such a Rolls-Royce franchise. Even though Resurrection is trash, Part 3 is getting better and better with age, kind of like the prequels in Star Wars. The more content comes out, the ones that you thought once so good, and you're like, oh, really? Well, they did a better job making the story than other people, you know, that kind of way. But Alien, I have no expectations. The Thing, I really don't even know what way they're going to go with the movie, or what way it's going to be made, and what way they're going to incorporate the universe of the characters. So like, I don't even begin to have expectations. Not even that I have low expectations. It's the fact that I haven't even thought about having expectations for that, because I have no idea until I see a trailer, I think. But like, when it comes to remakes, really at the moment, I'm not uber excited about a lot of them. I'm looking forward to Scream, even though it's a sequel. I won't really call it a remake. I'm looking forward to that simply because they got so many, the original cast still there. And I think because Scream's not that old, 97, I think the first one came out, 96. Yeah. So you're like, it's not even 30 years old yet.
No, 25,
you know what I mean?
25.
So in terms of horror genres, that's very young. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Comparison to what its rivals are. You know what I mean? But I'm just thinking now, is there anything else on the horizon that we should talk about?
No, I don't think. Well, nothing to be too fucking blown away by. More to be continued, I think.
Yeah. There's another Evil Dead coming out, but I'm not sure if that counts as a remake. As I said, like, they're kind of more standalone stories now at this
exactly,
stage.
Yeah, which is probably the best format.
Yeah, I think especially for that franchise, because it's just like poor bastards to find the book, you know. What I mean?
Exactly.
And possession and whatnot.
And tip the cap, but don't try and recreate perfection.
Yeah. And don't try and recreate the remake either, because that was such a gory.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
I guess like you can rant and it becomes a results game. It just simply does. You go and see it, and then go, that was really fucking good. Yeah. That's all it matters. It's still entertainment, i.e., should be entertaining.
Yeah, and I think like. Yeah, I don't really have a shit ton of expectations for the remakes that are on the horizon, but I think we will see more of what you said. We'll see more horror genre, more horror mainstream stuff, like the big stuff, going to streaming services and going to film, going on TV and shit like that. Like the way Scream has Chucky, No Chill last summer, Hellraiser on the horizon, even Aliens. You know what I mean? Like the Alien franchise is going to go on Hulu or something. I think whatever Disney owns, because they own the rights to that now. But I just think when I look at it, remakes in a sense are really bad for the franchise, because you're retracing stuff instead of making new things. But it's kind of cool to see these franchises and different storytellers' ideas and their interpretation of franchises we know and love. That's kind of cool, even though there's a lot of misses along the way. And I'm totally against remasters in the computer world, because you're just like literally charging people 70 quid for the same game over and over again. And in movies, even though like I will always go and see these remakes, like I just think some of them are unnecessary, and I think after a while we're going to need to leave these franchises alone and start creating new franchises, because what we're going to have 21, 50, Halloween 37, 30, you know what I mean? Like, so I just think it comes a case where I think after Halloween ends we leave Halloween alone. And I think that
good fucking luck.
Yeah, I think leave it where it lay. Texas Chainsaw Massacre hasn't had a movie for a while, so maybe we could get a new Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Well, even though what's it called, Leatherface was out in 2017 or something, so I don't know. I just think the OGs need to be left where they are now. Right now, I think
thank them for their service.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think we need to start making new stuff. And even though
making movies should be hard.
Yeah,
it should be fucking hard.
And creating new franchises should be even harder.
Yeah.
You know
that's
what I
why
mean?
people get paid millions to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an extreme, like it's like sports, man. You don't just get to run out on the field.
Yeah.
You have to be extreme, like world class talented.
Yeah, exactly.
That's as simple as that. And
yeah.
if you're not, you don't. And honest to God, we've given too many back channels to movies.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, like remakes to the way they're proliferating, it really screams of a lack of creativity in Hollywood right now, and it's screaming to the fan base that we ran out of ideas. And we're just going to start selling you the shit that we know you love already. And I think even
repackaging it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Repackage it for a new generation. Halloween 2.0, Halloween age 20, whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? I just think, to wrap it up and get the fuck out of here, that remakes are a necessary part of indoctrinating, for lack of a better word, new people into these franchises. But I think it comes...
Introducing would have been another
word.
We'll go with indoctrinating.
Yeah, I think indoctrinating is pretty better. Like, you know, we start them young, like the tobacco industry.
Yeah, exactly.
But, you know, I just think that if it comes to stage that some franchises now don't need to be remade anymore or rebooted. They need to be left where they are. And some franchises, I think, like a Scream, are winding down. And I think that we need to look... I think Hollywood needs to take a good look at itself and go, we need to make new stories for a new generation. And I think even though remakes are obviously never going to be not there, I just think the more and more, especially within the horror realm, that certain franchises don't need to be remade anymore. We need to start seeing new franchises.
Yeah. Let something actually end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because Halloween is supposed to end next year. Let's see if it does.
Are they fuck?
Yeah, you know. Yeah. But do you want to say anything else?
No, I think we've been quite comprehensive, and I've enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Thank you if you've stayed with us.
Yeah, could be. So we'll be back next time. We'll probably have some other kind of topical thing. We're giving movies a little break from now.
Same pod time, same pod channel.
Like it. That's a t-shirt.
That's a t-shirt. Yeah.
That's a Warner Brothers suit. But so on to next time, folks. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, Noel John Toohey.
We got Carmack in the back. That was Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. We'll be back with something else next time. Peace out, motherfuckers.
Boy.